Stop. Get off me! You're under arrest. You're not a cop. You're a robber.
Rich parents can give their children a life of wealth and entitlement. But what happens when their children are forced to face the harsh realities of life? Here are 3 examples of 3 rich kids who got into trouble and refused to face the consequences of their actions. They thought they could literally eat their cake and have it.
Dad, help me! Please help me!
The 3 of them have one thing in common, which is refusing to take responsibility. They commit a crime, then fail to take responsibility for their actions because they feel the world revolves around them. Let's start with Alexandra, who on September 18, 2022, refused to get out of her father's car. Despite her father's every effort, she stubbornly refused to get out of the car. Her father was forced to phone the police, telling them that his daughter was in the car and that he wanted his car back. When the police arrived and inquired as to why Alexandra was inside the car and wouldn't get out, the father said he didn't know and that Alexandra had a lot of issues in life that he couldn't seem to resolve. All efforts from her father and the officers to get her out of the car proved abortive. She bluntly refused to get out of her dad's car, and she went as far as threatening the officers and asking them to call a judge and issue a ticket. From all indications, it was clear to see that this rich kid is used to having things done in her own way, and she is not used to hearing no.
Get a judge or something. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Get a judge and a jury and take me to trial. Like, I don't really understand.
So
mail me some papers. I mean, I don't know. Like,
would you like me to mail you?
Whatever the charges are, like, let me know.
Well, right now,
are you gonna give me a ticket? Why don't you just give me a ticket?
Well, we could give you, but you have to get out of the car. That's the problem. So the main
Or a
problem,
verbal warning? Be like, hey, please don't sit in people's cars again if they don't want you in them.
so that we've tried that. We're trying to get you out.
No, you didn't. But anyway,
So,
my
what's the
dad
issue?
is obviously, like, demented, and he's got, like, an issue that I can't diagnose, right? I don't know what to do.
The father made it quite evident that he had no intention of driving her, and Alexandra saw his reluctance as odd behavior and promptly diagnosed it as an early stage of dementia. The spoiled rich kid is not used to her father saying no to her outrageous demands, so she assumed he had dementia. One would think Alexandra was a doctor from the way she continued to emphasize that her dad has dementia, and he had an issue she couldn't diagnose. The conversation went back and forth. Unemployed Alexandra refused to utilize a gift card that her father had given her, preferring to stay in the car. It turns out that Alexandra had a drug problem and had been sent to rehab, but she had returned to the apartment somehow. It was evident that Alexandra ran away from rehab and came back home to make a scene. However, a loving father wanted to spend more time with his daughter. The father felt sorry for her, gave her more money, and took her out to get food. But not only did she not get food, but she refused to get out of the car, which is how we ended up in this standoff. Alexandra began to argue with the police, demanding that they summon a judge and issue her a ticket instead. She asked the officers to mail her a paper with whatever she was being charged for. At this point, the police were reaching their limits. The officer was trying to pull her out of the car, but Alexandra refused. After the officer walked away from her and attempted to reason with her once again, Alexandra became hostile, claiming she was assaulted and threatened to press charges for assault and being held against her will. The officers tried all they could to reason out things with her, but Alexandra seemed to give a hoot about what the officers were saying. Soon the officers ran out of options. Guess what happened next? They pulled her from the car and escorted her to their vehicle.
I'm not resisting. No, stop searching me. I have to search. Stop touching me. I have to search. You're molesting me. You're sexually assaulting me.
Stop.
You are sexually assaulting me. No.
She's not.
Yes, she
No,
is.
she's not.
Dad, help me.
I am not helping you.
Please help me. Please help me.
Stop.
Get off me.
Stop.
Get off me.
Stop. Resisting. Now you're getting a felony.
You have violated the
Get
law.
off me. Stop touching me.
It was at this point it dawned on Alexandra that she was actually being arrested. She wasn't expecting that from the police for sure. She actually thought they were there to dance to her tune. In a moment of panic, she calls her father for help. This is hilariously ironic considering she is now asking for the help of the person she falsely accused of having dementia. She even got another shock when her father told her he couldn't help her. She wasn't expecting that from her father. She thought he would run to save her as usual. But unfortunately for her, it wasn't business as usual this time. One would think Alexandra was done throwing tantrums, but no. She even had the nerve to ask the police officers to stop policing her. She must think the law revolves around her or something. One thing is clear. Alexandra wasn't done with her shenanigans. When the officers tries to search her, she screamed and asked them not to touch her. But when that didn't work, she accused the female police officer who was searching her of molesting her and sexually assaulting her.
Sexually assaulting me.
Stop.
You are sexually
Stop.
assaulting me. No.
She's not.
Yes, she
No, she's
is.
not.
Dad, help me.
But even the false accusations didn't help her either, as the police tried to put her inside their vehicle. She was willing to try her luck with everything from fighting raising false accusations so she can be released. Eventually, the officers handcuffed her and managed to put her into their vehicle. She was even telling the officers she didn't want to be handcuffed and they should stop it. She must think the police are on her payroll to give such orders. Alexandra got physical with the police officers. She fought them and attempted to kick the officers. After she was taken to the car, she asked the police officers to take her to the hospital because she was too hot. The officers were generous enough to turn on the air conditioning for her. It seems she didn't really know the mess she was in. Maybe she was thinking she was in her father's car where she could give orders. Alexandra was taken to jail where she will face charges for trespassing and resisting arrest. Hopefully, she will learn her lesson in jail. One thing is certain. Alexandra wasn't going to like it in jail because things would not certainly go her way. While Alexandra doesn't care for the world now, our next rich kid doesn't have the word no in her dictionary. This particular rich kid thinks the world revolves around her and her dad. She fled from the police after almost causing an accident and putting her life and the lives of passersby at risk due to reckless driving.
Oh my God, Dad! They're arresting me! Can I call my father?
No.
He owns the island.
1511, you can
Okay.
release the air.
What did I
You know what you've done.
She was under the influence of alcohol while driving. This rich kid kept asking for her daddy when caught instead of obeying the officers. Maybe she is used to her dad fixing all her mess, but unfortunately for her, her dad could not save her this time around. On February 21st, 2022, in Florida, police received a call regarding a suspected drunk driver. An eyewitness reported a concerning incident involving a Tesla, mentioning a near collision with a palm tree. The driver proceeded to reverse, causing trees to screech, and posing threats to the pedestrians nearby. Before hastily driving off, a deputy spotted the vehicle parked outside by the roadside, and as the deputy tried to approach the car, the driver accelerated and fled the scene. Eventually, the police caught up with her and arrested her for DUI, running a red light and resisting the police. This rich kid started throwing tantrums. She was telling her dad on the phone that she was about to be arrested by the police and she didn't even know why they wanted to arrest her. This rich kid feels she is in the right to make demands. She repeatedly requested to speak with her father and refused to cooperate with the authorities. The police attempted to conduct a field sobriety exercise to determine if she was driving under the influence of alcohol. Throughout their interactions, her behavior appeared erratic, and she continued to demand to speak with her father even though she was an adult. This rich kid continued asking to speak with her father, refusing a sobriety test and arguing with the officers. She thinks her father can make her charges disappear with a wave of hands. She must be delusional to think that. She even went as far as trying to fight the officers. She must be really drunk for wanting to get physical with the officers. Who does that? I guess it's only rich and entitled kids who feel everything must go their way. This rich kid is used to having everything her way, and she thought this wasn't an exception. She kept asking the officers who they were and what they were doing to her. She even feigned ignorance that she wasn't even aware it was the police trying to stop her. How hilarious, how could she not hear the siren blowing? Finally, her dad came, but to her disappointment. He didn't wave the charges away with wards of cash. Instead, he asked her to obey the police. Only then did it dawn on her that she might actually be in trouble, so she began to argue legality with the officers. The officers explained the seriousness of her actions, emphasizing that her reckless behavior put her life and the life of others at risk. But this rich kid wasn't having any of that. To her, she shouldn't be arrested and taken to jail because no life was lost. She actually thought she had the right to tell the police how to do their job. Her argument seems to be that she shouldn't be arrested when she hasn't hurt anyone yet. She was eventually charged with DUI, reckless driving, and fleeing from an officer. It is obvious this rich kid hasn't learned her lesson. The worst part is, she believes she did nothing wrong. Well, she would have enough time to think about the consequences of her actions in jail. Maybe after a few days in jail, she would understand she was wrong for putting the lives of people at risk and hopefully learn never to drive when drunk. Just when you have seen it all with the rich kid's shenanigans, this 18-year-old takes the cake. He was driving the boat under the influence of alcohol. He put his life and the lives of the underage teenagers who were on the boat with him at risk. This 18-year-old didn't think about the danger of boating under the influence of alcohol. He endangered the lives of everyone in the boat because of his reckless behavior. He didn't even think about the consequences of underage boating. What started as a regular water patrolling day in Owatara, Escambia County, for Officer Healy Barker and Christopher Logg from Florida Fishing Wildlife, took a dynamic turn when the operator of a boat bounty vessels traveling under a bridge flipped them off. The gesture offended the officers, prompting them to chase down the bounty vessels. The operator immediately flipped off the cops. Not a crime, though, and could as well be covered by freedom of speech. But you better not be making offensive gestures while actively committing a crime. Officers conducted a safety inspection on the boat, checking for requirements and safety gear. 2050-24 Digaur. They found alcohol and discovered that all passengers were below 21 and therefore underage. The operator underwent a sobriety test and arrested him for boating under the influence. The officers used the opportunity to educate the teenagers about the seriousness of underage boating and reckless behavior on water, emphasizing the legal consequences. He stresses the need for responsibility on a boat, especially considering the potential distraction while steering and the danger it poses to all on board and nearby. The operator who was boating under the influence was arrested. The officer educated him on how dangerous it was to boat while drunk. He harnessed how such behavior endangers everyone on the boat, especially in the middle of the bridge with potential hazards. Let's hope he learns his lesson after a few nights in jail. Experience, they say, is the best teacher.